Oh, this will be interesting. I forgot my glasses. Our building is on the unceded ancestral territory of the Ahashiman and Tongva. Our land acknowledgement is our offering of gratitude and respect to the indigenous peoples as the traditional stewards of this land and their enduring relationship with their traditional territory. My name is Rachel Daniels, and I'm your worship associate. Our gathering music video was A Change is Gonna Come by Sam Cooke. It was released in 1964 during the height of the civil rights movement in the United States. The movement made its largest legislative gains in the 1960s after years of grassroots protests and actions. My father, a 6'4" tall, big guy, strong, white, and blue-eyed, he was born in Alabama in the 1960s. Excuse me 1 minute, let me get my glasses. Much better. In 1960, or it might have been 64, he went back to Alabama to be on a security detail at the polling booths to assure access to all those who wished to vote. My father didn't talk much about that time, but my mother told me that my father and his group had quite a few extremely violent encounters, people going to the hospital, against those who tried to stop people of color from voting. My father was an active participant in changing our country for the better, as I think most of us Unitarians are. We take action to help the moral arc of the universe bend towards justice just a little more quickly. Many thanks to Reverend Celia for selecting today's gathering music. Everywhere on Sunday mornings, Unitarians locally, nationally, and globally light the chalice to open our worship spaces. Please light a chalice at home if you happen to have a candle nearby. Brian will light our chalice here while we all read together the chalice lighting words. So please unmute if you're on Zoom. The words will be on the screen. And these are from the AA website. Excuse me, not AA, although I am a member, UUA website. And that's even with my glasses on. Okay. We light this chalice to renew again
our fellowship, which is deepened and enriched by our gathering together. This flame illuminates our dreams and our struggles, which we share with all human community and makes family of all of us.
Calvin Dame, UUA. There are candles on the side of the sanctuary, and you can light a candle at any moment in the service for whatever's on your heart, whether it's a family loss, a joy, a global issue, or a celebration of a recent court decision. We will also have spoken joys and sorrows later in the service. Each Sunday service is a collective effort, from scheduling speakers, making coffee, sending fresh donuts, caring for the building, setting up candles, having beautiful music, running the sound and PowerPoint. And we're grateful to everyone for their generosity in time and effort. Whether today is your first or 100th Sunday here, we are stronger because you are here with us. All of us are growing and learning together. We are one people of many beliefs, many origins, sexualities, and genders. Just as you are welcome here. Our main doctrine in Unitarian Universalism is love. We accept you for who and what you are. We recognize that each of us is on our own unique spiritual journey. We share the values of the 8 principles that are on the back of your order of service. And for anyone new on Zoom, you can go to our UUFLB website. Today's service on struggling on the scale of morality, I think touches on all 8 principles, but I haven't heard Reverend Celia's sermon. So I have to wait to see if it focuses in one particular principle, but maybe we can all listen to the sermon and see which of the principles, if not all of them, that the sermon supports or just stands out to us. If we have anybody new here who would like to identify, stand up and identify, we can do that at this time. Anybody on Zoom that's new? And I can't see Dawn. Wait, can I see now? No. Okay, and nobody here. So we're just going to take a quick moment and say hi to each other.
Good morning, good morning, good morning.
Good morning. Hi, Jean.
Hi.
How you doing? Who else is here today? Jen?
Just the three of us. Oh, and we have Jim S. I'm not sure who Jim S. is exactly, but good morning, Jim.
No, I guess he's not here. He's probably stepped away.
No, I'm here. I'm just, Celia gave me the link to come and check in.
All right.
Welcome. Thanks for
Welcome.
joining us this morning.
Thank you.
Sharon.
Now Dawn will put up a slide that shows our upcoming services. As you can see, we have a lot of wonderful services coming up. Next week, Greg Klein. Then we have the Reverend Terry LePage, and then Bruce Johnson from Tapestry. And Bruce is just this amazing speaker. Well, all of them are actually, but for Bruce's voice, I always thought he should have a job doing phone sex or something, because he just has this gorgeous speaking voice. But anyway, Bruce Johnson from Tapestry will be here. And then Stacy Pendleton, who does sound healing. And she's amazing. If you guys haven't experienced her, she'll be here on June 30th. And then we are so lucky that July begins our Summer Up program. And Summer Up stands for Unique Programming. And based on the past years, you won't want to miss this exceptional discussion and opportunity for growth with Professor Don West Jr. And I will turn it over to Don now to say a few words about Summer Up.
We're going to be doing a book again this summer from July 7th to July 28th. And the title of the book is On Repentance and Repair, Making Amends in an Unapologetic World. This actually comes to us from the UUA. It's the 23-24 Common Read. So there's other people out there who may be joining us this summer or at some point in this period reading the same book. There's a QR code there so that you can get it on Amazon or wherever you prefer to get your favorite book. It comes in all formats, audiobook, paperback, hardcover. So whichever is your preference, and hopefully you'll join us.
Great. Thank you, Don. And now we have just a couple announcements. We have our Zoom at noon, which meets every Monday at noon. Paul Bogdan hosts, and it's a chance to get to know people. We talk about mostly what's just going on in our lives. Then next Thursday is the first Thursday of the month. And every first Thursday, we work with Tapestry and others to help host a meal at the alternative sleeping location. And nobody's responsible for the entire meal. Well, maybe Bruce and John, fill in that way. They sort of coordinate it, Bruce and John from Tapestry as well as from UUFLB. But you just bring one component of the meal, and that's a way to get involved. And if you're interested, you could see Noreen, Candy, Paul, Dara, Pam, any of us. Now we have our centering thought. And that will be on the screens. So you can read along as I read it. The most important human endeavor is the striving for morality in our actions. Our inner balance and even our very existence depend on it. Only morality in our actions can give beauty and dignity to life. Albert Einstein. Now we turn to the fantastic and wonderful Carol Cole for our opening hymn. Please stand. The words will be on your screen. And if you're on Zoom, please sing along, although muted.
There's a river flowing in my soul. There's a river flowing in my soul. And it's telling me that I'm somebody. There's a river flowing in my soul. There's a river flowing in my heart. There's a river flowing in my heart. And it's telling me that I'm somebody. There's a river flowing in my heart. There's a river flowing in my mind. There's a river flowing in my mind. And it's telling me that I'm somebody. There's a river flowing in my mind. There's a river flowing in my soul. There's a river flowing in my soul. And it's telling me that I'm somebody. There's a river flowing in my soul. There's a river flowing in my soul.
Good morning. Spirit of life and hope, we turn our minds and hearts again toward thee. Awaken us again to the mystery that humble us, the realities that orient us, the truth that judge and guide us, the beauty that inform and ravish us, the love and nurtures us, the fellowship that sustains us, the creativity that heightens and deepens and reorders our life, and we may give ourselves in honesty, openness to the larger life before us. Let us worship together.
Thank you. Now, those on Zoom, please unmute. And those here, look at the screens. We are going to read a short affirmation together, which tells us why we're here, or reminds us why we're here. Okay, ready? May we be
reminded here
our highest
of our highest aspirations and inspired to bring our gifts
and
of love and service
of
to
humanity.
the altar of
May we
humanity.
once again,
May we know once again
may we know
We are
once
not
again
isolated
that we
beings,
are not isolated beings, but
but
connected
connected
in
mystery,
mystery
and miracle
universe,
to the
to the
universe,
universe,
to
to
this
this community,
to each other.
and
and
to
to
each
each
other.
other.
Now is a time in our service where we bring our joys and sorrows to this community to lighten a load or to celebrate something that's going on in your life. And we will start with those on Zoom. Don will highlight you if you raise your hand. Community by our financial support. Don will put up a slide that shows ways to donate, and Candy will pass the basket while Carol touches our heart with her music. And now we're going to sing to each other. We do this twice in the service where we stand and join hands now. And the words to what we're singing will be on the screens. And then we do it at the end of our service also. So please stand and form a circle if you're here. And if you're on Zoom, sing along, although unmuted.
From you I
I
receive,
receive,
to you
you
I
I give,
give. Together
together
we
we
share,
share.
and from
From
this
this
we
we
live.
live.
You
I
receive,
receive,
to you I
I
give.
Get
Together
together
together,
we
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 share,
share
and from
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 this
this.
we live.
Today's sermon is titled Struggling on the Scale of Morality. Our returning, thought-provoking, and spiritual awakening guest minister, Reverend Celia Young, will explore the gray area between the black and white, where we make most of our life decisions as adults. Reverend Celia asks, how have we negotiated with our sense of right and wrong? Reverend Celia Young is an ordained interfaith chaplain and founder of Authentic Living Ministry. She is a Unitarian Universalist and a Buddhist. For over 30 years, Reverend Celia has used her life's experience in her consulting and coaching work to achieve social justice in Fortune 500 corporations worldwide. She has coached and developed individual leaders and work teams to follow their North Stars, preserve their integrity, and become who they truly are. These leaders and employees have become courageous enough to speak their truth, stand on their highest principles, and help change their organizational culture to value and nurture the diversity, equity, and inclusion of their people. Looking toward the last quarter of her life, Reverend Celia has expanded her ministry and spiritual activism from the workplace into the larger society, where she helps heal the traumatized and suffering, mend the broken human spirit, and restore the basic goodness of humanity. Besides being a leadership and life coach and spiritual activist, Reverend Celia is also an inspirational speaker. Currently, Reverend Celia is an intern chaplain at the University of San Diego Health Facility. Starting this September, Reverend Celia will be the resident chaplain at the Veteran Affairs Healthcare Facility in Loma Linda for a year. Reverend Celia has a BA in Business Administration, an MBA in Marketing, an MA in Counseling Psychology, and a Master of Divinity equivalent. And we are so pleased and fortunate that Reverend Celia is with us today. Please join me in welcoming Reverend Celia, who will do a reading, the meditation, and then on to the service.
Thank you. Good morning again. This morning's reading is by Maya Angelou. The title is called Touched by an Angel. We, unaccustomed to courage, exiled from delight, live coiled in shells of loneliness until love leaves its highest holy temple and come into our sight to liberate us into life. Love arrives, and in its train comes ecstasy and old memories of pleasure, ancient history of pain. Yet, if we are bold, love strikes away the chain of fear from our souls. We are weaned from our timidity in the flush of love's light. We dare be brave, and suddenly we see that love calls all we are and will ever be. Yet it is only love which sets us free. So for our meditation this morning, let us put our feet down onto the ground, sit up straight, lower your eyes, and watch your breath in and out. Bring ourselves to the space of quietness for a minute. Thank you. The latest college campus protest has brought me back a lot of memories. I came to the States in September 1971 to attend graduate school at Michigan State University. The anti-Vietnam War movement was in full swing, and Kent State University student massacre just happened a year ago. I was amazed to see students stayed out of the classroom, sit in, and occupy the administration building. I even followed them to a rally in front of Washington Memorial the next summer. Coming from Taiwan, where public protest was not allowed, I didn't understand the meaning of the First Amendment rights. But I was inspired by the freedom of expression in the air. From the moment we entered this world, We were born pure and innocent. When we're young, we see things clearly and in simple terms. We have a simple rule of right and wrong. This is the beauty of being young. I noticed that youth have often been the ones who are willing to stand up and take a risk to express themselves and even put their lives on the line. Whether it was civil rights movement from the 40s to the 60s, or anti-war movement from the 60s to the 70s, most activists were children with a direct and pure sense of justice. In their world, things are black and white. They might be naive, but bold and willing to speak up. And then there was June 4th student movement in Beijing and the yellow umbrella protests in Hong Kong. These are some of the additional actions carried out by our youth. Their bravery is the fire in our humanity, the seed for our morality. They remind us that the belief in truth-telling and freedom of expressions is not just part of our US heritage, it is a universal and basic human essence and character. Then we children start to grow up. We see things not quite so simple. We create room for negotiation. As we get older, we have much to consider, such as prices to pay before we stick our neck out. When we get caught protesting or crossing some random boundaries, there often will be records that might jeopardize our employment opportunities, scholastic standing, or career opportunities in the future. We might get injured or killed. We learn the freedom of expression is never completely free. Freedom of speech has always had consequences. During the student protests in Tiananmen Square in Beijing in 1989, my sister went there to lend her support. She was a young revolutionary during the Civil War 40 years earlier in China. She and my three brothers were all students at the best universities equivalent to Harvard and Columbia. They joined the communist movement as a patriotic act against the corrupt nationalist government. After the Communist Party took over the government, and during the 10 years of Cultural Revolution, she and thousands of patriots were purged and sent to the countryside for re-education because the leaders want to consolidate power. She had a strong sympathy for the youth who repeated the history. She knew that the authoritarian regime of the Chinese government would not tolerate this form of freedom of expression. Now they're in charge. In the world of power imbalance, we adults think we have more to lose, and gradually we become reluctant to stand up for what we believe in. We learn to negotiate with the outside world to meet our needs. We learn to compromise our principle and justify our action. This is often necessary for our survival. You might think the youth were too young to understand the world's complexity. Most situations are not so black and white, and right and wrong is not so clear. Between black and white, we learn to give and take in the gray area with plenty of moral dilemma. Of course, the traditional Chinese painting is created in shades of gray. The beauty lies in the ratio of water and ink, according to the artist's creative ideas. But the key to learn to see the beauty clearly is without getting lost. Many moral dilemmas may involve a conflict of values, a lack of clear guidance, or a clash between two or more ethical principles. It can be difficult to decide whether the best course of action is. In the end, there seems to be a price to pay, regardless of the action we chose. It may not be the best choice when we finally make a choice, but it is the most workable choice. This is the adult world we live in. This is how we have moved from being idealistic to being realistic, from acting true to acting practical. The problem is, when the gray area starts to take over what's right, do we still believe in anything? Have we sold out too much? What are we still willing to stand up and fight for? In an article called True Morality Excludes Gray Area, published on February 26, 2010, by Pepperdine Graphite website, the author wrote, "We live in the world of moral ambiguity, where the idea of black and white seem to have faded into the shades of gray. We cling to the postmodernist thinking that we can create our own truth. Why? Because it is easy. In the world of moral relativism, no one has to make hard choices. No one has to take responsibility for determining what is right and what is wrong. And many in our generation have simply used this concept to avoid taking a firm stance on any issue that really matters. Many issues do have a spectrum of gray. While we need to recognize this and accept it, we also accept that in some cases there are no shades of gray. Only the stark and solid line in the sand between right and wrong. White lies are still lies. Half-truths are not truth by definition, just like there's no such thing as alternative truth. The sky is blue, whether I want it to be. Murder is unacceptable, whatever the motive. Right and wrong may be relative, but living in a society where we color in our own shades of gray as light or as dark as we feel at any given time is dangerous. So how have we got to this point in our modern life? By trading and negotiating, by fudging on the edge of a morality, we gradually sold off our authentic selves. Is there still any solid line in the sand between right and wrong? Is there still a line called our non-negotiables? The more we justify and rationalize every decision and action to protect our career, our power, relationships, material achievement, or the self-image we have constructed, the more we trade our authentic selves. We are in danger of becoming totally transactional. At some point in our lives, we have drifted so far from who we truly are, we are lost, and our spirit suffers. The term moral injury was originally used to describe the experience of military personnel who struggle to reconcile their killing of innocent civilians and destruction of life during the war with their sense of who they really were and their morality. Their feelings of remorse, betrayal, and despair manifested in a spiritual crisis. However, moral injury is not limited to the military. It can also affect ordinary people. We may wake up one day to discover that we have been seduced by power, success, and material conflict, and betrayed ourselves and the trust people place in us by others. In the process, we have compromised part of our true self for the success we believe we wanted. So how do we move out of gray area in our lives? We will need to stand up for our values and take a risk to be different. The quote, "The only thing necessary for triumph of evil is for good men to do nothing," was routinely attributed to Edmund Burke. It turned out that he never said those words. At best, the essence of quote can be traced back to our Unitarian philosopher, John Stuart Mill, who delivered an 1867 inaugural address at the University of St. Andrews and stated, "Let not anyone pacify his conscience by the delusion that he can do no harms if he takes no part and forms no opinions. Bad men need nothing more to compass their ends than that good men should look on and do nothing. He is not a good man who, without a protest, allows wrong to be committed in his name and with the means which he helps to supply, because he will not trouble himself to use his mind on the subject." In this current world, there is so much confusion about what is the right action or right stand to take. To not take a stand, we're actually choosing to stand in the gray area we created. Often we choose to sit on the fence out of fear of conflict or the unknown, or believing that we have already done enough, or we're too old to do anything. Many well-intended UUs see social justice work as projects. When they believe there are too many on their plate, they give themselves permission to sit out the battle. Some of us might think that there's nothing we can do since this is God's will or karma. So in the gray area, we end up developing indifference and apathy, even death in our hearts. In the words of great writer Anais Nin, "The day came when the risk to remain tight in the bud was more painful than the risk of it takes to blossom. The pain of staying asleep is bigger than the perils of waking up." But to fight for good over evil doesn't mean we go to war and destroy the other side. When right and wrong or right and left pit against each other, this self-righteous aggression creates more suffering. This is the kind of duality in Buddhism that the Buddhism has taught us not to get trapped in. Somewhere beyond right and wrong, there's a garden. I will meet you there. The famous quote from Rumi that refers to a place in our hearts that where we see the other beyond the choices that polarize us. It helps us get unstuck from the part of the gray area that is full of indecision, fear, and denial. It encourages us to seek to understand, to see things clearly, and to rise above the seesawing and be true to our real nature. To be true to our moral principles and not create moral injury, we need to take a stand for what is right in a positive way. In Buddhism, a spiritual warrior known as the Bodhisattva is a warrior who stays on the battlefield lifetime after lifetime, fighting from a place of compassion and insight, with a broken heart that bears witness of the suffering in this world because of intolerance, hatred, and righteousness. They are here to do the battle based on love and compassion for both ends, not either or. The highest Buddhist virtue, compassion, or we call dana in Sanskrit and Pali, means to give. To be a bodhisattva on earth is to give ourselves and our love to others. But in Shantideva's engaging in the bodhisattva deed in 8th century, it says that the perfection of giving is not about creating results or expecting praises or rewards. We give it ourselves by expressing our love because it is our life's mission. Let our action reflect our true intentions and attitude without worrying about the results. Maybe protesting on the street is not the only action we can take to stand up for what is right. The bigger challenge is to have enough courage to see beyond our differences and walk toward the higher plane of love. This requires us not to back down, hide, or get into what we call destroyer's mode. By not silencing our moralistic voices on the one hand, and not taking up the kill or be killed strategy on the other hand, maybe we'll find a common area where all of us can exercise our best humanity. UUA's principles, all 8 of them, inspire us to live with our integrity and follow our highest moral standards. It is up to us to remain vigilant and not let too much a gray area of our lives hijack our true selves. May we continue to remind ourselves our heritage and act on these principles. May we stand firm on the line of our non-negotiables. May we have love in our hearts on the battlefield between good and evil. Namaste. Shalom. Amen. Blessed be.
Well, I wasn't on the microphone before, but as soon as Reverend Celia finished, I went, oh my God, wow. Thank you, Reverend Celia. Let's see where I am. Okay, now we have our closing hymn. Thank you, Carol. The words will be on your screen.
168. 168. Please stand as you're able and join us in singing. One more step, we will take one more step till there is peace for us, and everyone will take one more step. One more word, we will say one more word, till every word is heard from everyone. We'll say one more word. One more prayer, we will say one more prayer, till every prayer shared by everyone will say one more prayer. One more song, we will sing one more song, till every song is sung by everyone. We'll sing one more song.
Thank you, Carol. Now we're going to extinguish the chalice. Reverend Celia will do that. This flame represents our intentional and unconditional love that we will carry with us, bringing light, friendship, and compassion into the world. We keep this flame lit in our hearts, sharing our light with all those we meet along our paths. And now Reverend Celia will give us our benediction.
Thank you. Be mindful of our highest aspiration, bound by common faith and purpose, and yet beginning with ourselves as we are. Let us take one more step together in our unending quest for dignity, justice, and love. Amen.
And now this is the second time we close out our service by singing our closing song. So we'll form a circle and join hands, and the words will be on the screen. Let there be peace on earth.